Hi guys, my name is Farouk Abbas and I thought to do this video to discuss the lessons the political actors and those of us from Osun State can learn from the victory of President Donald Trump in the presidential elections in the United States of America. You know, my belief in life is that whatever experience we face as human beings, there are always lessons we can learn. However, it's either we learn the lessons or we choose to cry over spilled milk. And in discussing the lessons that we can learn from President Donald Trump's victory, I'm not going to be talking about whether you agree with President Donald Trump's style of politics or his personality or his philosophy and all of that, or whether Kamala Harris was better than him. No, it's not going to be about that. Let's leave that for the Americans. But what I want us to take away as residents of Osun, as people from Osun State, as political actors in Osun State, are the lessons we can learn from the victory and from President Donald Trump's trajectory. I'm going to be talking about 3 or 4 lessons, and the first lesson I want to talk about is the issue of not giving up. You know, President Donald Trump came from nowhere in 2015 to run for president, and when he came into politics in 2015, he didn't have any political experience, but he took over the great Republican Party and the Republican Party, and he got a ticket for president. He ran, though he lost in 2020, and eventually won when he recontested again. He didn't give up. When he lost in 2020, he kept his base. He sustained his momentum. He didn't give up. You know, he could have given up. He faced a lot of battles from the establishment, so many lawsuits, such that even a new word, lawfare, was coined when you are facing a lot of lawsuits that seek to annihilate you or obliterate you, you know. But he didn't give up and he won his election. So as residents of Osun, a lot of us are clamoring to have better quality of leaders across board in Osun. Some of us are not satisfied with the quality of leaders we have. Some people have run for office in the past and they've given up, saying that, you know, they don't believe in politics. Politics is dirty, is heavily monetized. People who engage in vote buying, they want to relocate abroad. They don't believe in the system. They don't believe in INEC and all that. You know, people are quick to give up. So the first lesson is, as residents, as people from Osun, as residents of Osun, we must not give up in our quest to have high quality of leaders in our state. President Donald Trump didn't give up. He fought for what he believed in. We must also not give up. So for one, I learned a key lesson from President Donald Trump's situation, that yes, I might want to have good quality leaders in my local government, in my state, and across board. Yes, we might not have achieved it in the past, but nothing says we can't achieve it in the future. So let's have that staying power. Let's have that grit and that persistence, and let's not give up. The second lesson we should learn from President Donald Trump's experience is the ability to engage your audience, the ability to engage your base, to engage your supporters. President Donald Trump has an uncanny ability to engage his base. At a rally recently, he said from 2015 to date, he must have attended about 900 rallies. And I read a newspaper report recently that said that they audited President Donald Trump's presentation at his rallies, his speeches at his rallies, and they found that he spoke for an average of 82 minutes during this election cycle. In 2020 election, he spoke for about an average of 60 minutes. But now he spoke for an average of 82 minutes. And even in one of his rallies, I also read another report that said his aides were challenging him that why was he usually closing his remarks at his rallies by speaking about immigration, when data shows that the economy is the #1 issue for the Americans. And Donald Trump said whenever he's talking to his audience at the rallies, whenever he mentions immigration, he sees that the faces of the crowd light up. People are usually more animated. But when he's talking about the economy, their reaction is not as It's not as sharp as when he's talking about immigration. So he was bold because he interacts with the audience directly. He was bold to stick with his guts because he was able to feel the pulse of the crowd. So we need to have a leader that can engage. President Donald Trump attended several interviews. I watched a couple of his interviews and it was very fantastic. And there was one particular one I liked. He was interviewed by a journalist. I don't know whether it was the Wall Street Journal or one, but it was about economy. It was a one-on-one interview. He spoke purely about economy and he spoke for about an hour. And when I watched the interview, I was highly impressed. Whenever he talks, he talks with so much energy, so much passion, and he's very consistent. A lot of the ideas he was talked about during the campaign, he's been talking about them since the 90s. Yes, you might not agree with some of the things he says. I don't agree with all of the things he says, but I agree with a lot of them. He was able to engage. He even attended podcast interviews. In one particular, in Joe Rogan or Joe Rogan, I can't remember, but there was a particular interview podcast he went to, and he spoke for about 3 hours. Meanwhile, they invited his opponents for some, and she didn't attend, though she attended some. In Osun State, we also have leaders who don't engage. A lot of our leaders, I stand to be corrected, I'm not aware of any of our leaders in Osun State who has come to my local government to organize town hall meetings to engage with the people. Politicians shouldn't just move around during time for election. When you get elected into office, you should move around. Come to the community, have town hall meetings, ask your people, what are your challenges? What can I do for you? Give reports. I'm a member of the House of Assembly. This is how much I've collected as allowance, constituency allowance. This is what we're trying to do. This is how many times I've spoken at the House of Assembly. This is the motion I've moved. This is what happened at the House of Reps. Let me tell you my side of the story. But they are not doing that. They are not engaging with their base. They are not engaging with those who elected them into office. But President Donald Trump had that ability to engage his audience, and he got the crown for it. He got the reward for that. So in Osun State now, we have leaders who don't engage with the base. We have technology now. You can use Facebook Live to talk to your audience, to talk to your constituents. But they don't do that. So we must learn the lesson that if we're going to choose our leaders in the next election cycle, let's look for leaders who can engage. Let's look for leaders who can interact. Let's look for leaders who are not scared of addressing the press. We have leaders in our state who can't address the press, who can't do an interview that is not scripted. So we need to choose leaders who we can all be proud of. That's number 2 lesson I want us to learn. Number 3 lesson I want us to learn is that politics is not just all about money. Money alone does not determine who wins an election. In this election cycle, President Donald Trump was out. It was Kamala Harris outraised him in terms of funds. I read somewhere that President Donald Trump raised about $1 billion as at 2 weeks ago, whilst Kamala Harris had about $1.6 billion. But notwithstanding a huge war chest, she couldn't defeat him. Also, when President Donald Trump ran against Hillary Clinton in 2016, Hillary Clinton outraised him significantly, but he still won. So those of us in Osun State who are interested in running for office, who are interested in becoming leaders, let's not give up. Let's not be scared to say, oh, the guys that want to contest against their money bags, they've hijacked the structure, giving all sort of excuses. No. Somebody might be a money bag and he can still lose an election. Yes, you are going to spend money if you need to defeat a money bag. But money alone is not a determining factor. You need to mop up funds. You need to mop up funds, and you need to be able to hit the bull, take the bull by the horns rather. So let's look at that. That's also another key lesson that we can learn from this incident. Another lesson we can learn is that we need leaders who are hands-on. I saw a video during the campaign. President Donald Trump was dictating to his aides to compose a message for him on Twitter. He was dictating. He didn't get someone to be writing his messages on Twitter. He was a hands-on president. He had solid people around him. He was always talking to his advisors. he handles his affairs by himself, even though he had people with him. So let's get leaders who will be hands-on, leaders who can speak on issues, leaders who, when they ask questions on issues, who can be consistent on their policy. President Donald Trump's policies are well known to everyone. It's either you agree with them or you don't agree with them. But they are well known. So we need leaders who are hands-on in Osun State. And let's also go for that. Finally, the last point I want to talk about is, although people can say the election in America, it was dirty, President Donald Trump was using a lot of vulgar words, he called Tim Walz tampon teams, he called Kamala Harris lying this, crooked Joe Biden, using all sorts of vulgar and negative words to address his opponent. But the truth is, the election was largely issue-driven. The economy, immigration, abortion, tax, those are the issues that were discussed. And President Donald Trump's position on those issues were well known. So in Osun State, a lesson we can learn in this election cycle is that let us focus on the issues. Education sector is in shambles. Agricultural sector is in shambles. Health sector, shambles. No significant investment is being made in the agricultural sector in Osun State. I'm from Afake, in Ejigbo. All our inner roads are bad. The road from Songbe to Ilawo is bad. Ilawo to Ejigbo is bad. Ife-Odon to Ejigbo is bad. If all these roads are addressed and fixed, it will assist our people in moving their farm produce to Iwo, to Ogbomosho, to Ibadan. And the economy in our communities will thrive. Ilawo Grammar School, the hall, exam hall, uncompleted. No windows, no doors, no chairs, nothing. YTDA Primary School Ilawo, the roof is bad. No table and chair for the children. No toilet. The teachers don't have laptop. So what are we talking about? When we're going to have our next election cycle, we must focus on those issues. We must address those issues, bring them to the front burner, and let's ask the candidates, what are your plans about this? What are you going to do about this? Let's make our election campaigns issue-driven. It's very important. Because when elections are issue-driven, it increases the turnout of people who vote at the elections. So let's bring issues to the front burner when it comes to our elections. And finally, the Democrats, I believe they made a huge mistake by giving Kamala Harris the ticket without a primaries. Because my belief is that as an incumbent president or incumbent occupying an office, if you want to run for a second term, I believe that you should be given the right of first refusal. However, if the person who ran before isn't going to run again, a political party must conduct the primaries to choose the most popular candidate. When you choose the popular candidate, it's always easy for a party to win an election. But if you choose a candidate who is not your best, who is not the most popular, you might run into trouble. I believe that if the Democrats had organized the primaries, perhaps they will have been able to choose a stronger candidate who will have been able to confront Donald Trump pound for pound. Because if the truth must be told, President Donald Trump dominated the entire campaign season. Even though he was getting largely negative press covering, he still dominated with his strategy and with his antics and with his bullish personality. So if we're going to run for our election in the next election cycle in Osun State, we must ensure that we present quality candidates across board, from the councillor to chairman to House of Assembly to House of Reps to Senate to governor. And when we have a government, we must appoint quality people as commissioners, people who have a means of livelihood, people who have achieved something in their private lives, either as a farmer, as a carpenter, as an accountant, as a banker, as a lawyer. It doesn't make sense when you appoint jobless people into government offices, people who don't have any means of livelihood, people whose only goal in government is to come and embezzle money or to use government resources to take care of themselves and their families. We shouldn't appoint these kind of people. We should appoint people who we can be proud of. And as Nigerians, as Osun State residents, let's all take ownership of our campaign whenever we are running for office and whenever we are doing our election. Let's support quality candidates. Look at Elon Musk. With all the billions of dollars he has, he was campaigning for Donald Trump because they believed in him. So if Elon Musk can campaign for someone and put his money behind the person, who are you? Even if it's 5,000 you have, donate to a cause you believe in. Because if you don't invest in the campaign, you can't hold that person accountable. So in summary, I hope those of us from Osun State, we can learn these lessons. And when we have our next election cycle, I mean, look at how we all had sleepless nights monitoring American election, following the stories, reading about it, talking about it, tweeting about it. It's interesting. Let's domesticate the fun and the interest and the development and the discussion in our state. Let's work towards having a governor and leaders that we can be proud of. I also believe that from what happened in America, we can also learn lessons in our private lives, but I don't want to talk too much today. I just want to focus this video on the lessons we can learn as leaders, as people from Osun State. And I pray that the Almighty God will spare our lives till next week again when I'll be doing another video. Thank you very much and have a good day.